Welcome everyone. My name is Faith Eason. Today I'm going to be training you on bullying in the workplace. As we know, bullying has been highlighted more recently through the film industry. This has become a very costly occurrence for businesses. Therefore, most businesses are looking to educate and train their staff about their policies and procedures. The duration of this training is between 10 and 15 minutes. We do attach some information which can help you further. We welcome your comments and we'd like to answer your questions too. So if you can put those at the end of the training, that will be wonderful. So the key learning outcomes is the definition of bullying, the types of bullying, the effects on the victims, and how to file a complaint or a grievance. Australia has the worst bullying rates. They say that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men are bullied in the workplace. Workplace bullying is costing the Australian economy up to 36 billion each year. The legal costs and penalties for workplace bullying could be from $500,000 up to $3 million for workplaces and individuals. What I want you to do is to just take a few minutes and write out a definition of bullying. So what is bullying, or what is classified as bullying? Bullying is repeated, unreasonable behavior directed towards a worker or a group of workers that creates a risk to health and safety. So who's involved in bullying? They say that there are always onlookers or people who witness bullying or someone being bullied in the workplace. One statistic says that at least 90% of people in the workplace will be aware of a bullying incident. So what are the main types of bullying? So we get physical, emotional, social, and cyberbullying. In the next slide, we'll talk about the types of bullying, and we can discuss what category they might fall into. So bullying can involve behaviors such as exclusion. Exclusion, an example of exclusion might be where in your workplace, you might all be working in one section, and you might choose to arrange for a lunch outing or some work activity, and you might just exclude a few people. Maybe you might think they're not good enough. You might think that they're not cool enough. So you might exclude them from the work event. Rejection is probably a little similar to exclusion, but I suppose it's a more direct act where possibly someone might come up and maybe want to assist with maybe some task or some work activity, or maybe it might be just to organize an event, and you could reject them in terms of not allowing them to be part of the team to assist in, I suppose, organizing that event or doing that work, that job, or that task that is required. Then the next one is assault. Assault is more physical, where it might be that you might pinch someone, you might fist them, you might push them, you might pull them. Initiation rights. I often think of this when it comes to gangs, or sometimes where workplaces, or even sometimes in just other friendship groups, where when someone wants to become part of that group, you might ask them to do some sort of activity. In some instances, it might be something that is probably not legal, or it might be a challenge that might cause them injury or might cause someone else injury. So it could be something like some extreme cases with gangs. It might be, going to rob the service station. Extortion, another one as well, where I think it's more associated with threats. So for example, I've seen in a movie where there's shop owners, and the gang might go to the shop owners and say, we want X amount of dollars every week, every fortnight, or else if you don't give us that regular income, a regular bribe, whatever it is, then we will then get our gangs to break into your shop and steal your goods, or we will allow other people to come in and maybe do something harmful to, whether it's to your property in one way or another. So again, that has an emotional attachment to it, as well as, suppose it can be physical as well, because it might be that verbal exchange with that particular person. Then we're looking at teasing. Teasing as well is teasing as well has an impact, and it could be maybe using someone's name in a derogative way, because often maybe your first name or your surname has a likelihood to sound in a certain way, and sometimes people might then use it in a derogative way to get back to you or to upset you. And a big one is gossiping. Often people don't realize the impact of gossiping, particularly when you are in an environment like a work environment, and people are gossiping between them. Particularly if you've been unfortunate, then maybe some incident has come up, or it might be just a rumor that they'll be able to spread amongst themselves. And this even can become even more obvious to that person, because perhaps every time that person walks in the room, there's just sudden silence, or there's just a certain behavior that indicates that they've been talking about them, and the minute they walk out the room again, the gossiping continues. So that can be quite emotionally, I suppose, disturbing and upsetting. And the other component of bullying is harassment, but again, we'll deal with this separately. So again, we're talking about the types of bullying. If we go through that list, we can see there is a physical side, there's an emotional side, there's a social side, and we haven't spoken of the cyber, but I'll talk about that a little later. This is a US survey, and the reason why I'm using this US survey is to just demonstrate something, so just bear with me. So in the survey, it says 35% of the workplace in the US is said to be bullied. They said 90% of the colleagues witnessed the bullying. But in terms of reporting, they've got an actual comma. They don't know what the percentage was. This says to me, if they're saying 35% of the workforce was or has been bullied, how is it then that they don't know how much is reported? So to me, it just seems to say that perhaps that 35% is actually more, because often people will be bullied, but they may not report it. And the reason I'm saying this is I've done a lot of training with different people within their workplace. And many of them have come up and said, I was bullied in a workplace, and what I decided to do was just resign for their job, and I went to find another job. When I looked, basically they're saying when they thought about reporting it, they realized that the appropriate action would not have been taken, so they were literally wasting their time. So they just thought the best thing to do was to move on. Another person in the training basically said that if someone bullied them, they were able to, suppose, counteract in their responses to that person, which would probably shut them down. But again, that person's intent was bullying. And some people are afraid to report because they think it's going to impact on them in terms of, probably they're the breadwinner. It might mean that they might lose their job. It might mean that their peers are looking at them as weak. So they'll try and conceal that as much as possible and keep working. So the bully's intent is to ridicule, is to harass, is to humiliate, and is to intimidate. So often when they're talking about someone that's a bully, what they're trying to do, because they suffer from perhaps an inferiority complex, and what they're trying to do is to make themselves feel better. So the way they do it is trying to, again, make the other person feel less confident, lose their self-esteem, etc. Do you laugh at colleagues' mistakes? Do you make fun of people in a mean way? Do you join in when a colleague is being teased? Do you gossip or spread rumors? Because all of those still equate to bullying in the workplace. They said bullies are 5 times more likely to become criminals. So what are the effects of bullying? There's a lot of absenteeism, staff turnover. I spoke to you about the number of people that were in the training session that said to me, they just left the job. They resigned. Loss of self-esteem, depression, isolation. People become hesitant in socially, intellectually, emotionally, and vocationally. There's persistence. The persistence causes victims to take drastic measures. In some incidents, like I suppose an obvious one is in America, where students will come back and as a result, there's been a lot of shootings within the schools, and I suppose the saddest one as well is that victim is inclined to, some victims are inclined to commit suicide, which is really a big thing. Victims also become very socially anxious and insecure, and obviously their performance, whether it's in the workplace or even in their home or just in personal life, is affected. I suppose one of the things that have come up is social media, cyberbullying. And often people think that because social media is not, they don't see social media as part of the workplace. What they need to realize is that even if they are contacting someone from the workplace through social media outside of work time, this can still impact on them. This can still be classified as bullying in the workplace. As we can see, the penalties are pretty high in terms of the new laws, the new work health and safety laws. We're looking at harassment. Generally, they said harassment is 10,000 to 180,000, but we've known in previous cases that there were claims that are right up to 37 million. So those figures are not correct. So the actions to take: review your workplace policy, make sure you understand it. It's also important to look at your own behavior and just to make sure that your behavior is not classified as bullying. Your comments are most welcome, and if I'm able to answer you any questions that you have, I'm happy to do so.